So hey again, everybody. Old Guy Jammin' here with a little bit of jamming right up there in the intro through the Marshall. Hard to beat a Fender through a Marshall. Good tones. But one more tweak on this demon-possessed modern player, which isn't very modern. But the thing was giving me fits. You know, I've had some fret buzz, bridge buzz, I mean. The frets have always been okay. But I would do the setup, and it would play okay, it would play good, and then it would just move. It wasn't stable. And I would do the setup again, and I kept searching. Why isn't this thing? Sometimes it was a real joy to play, and then other times it was horrible, and I thought, well, I should just sell it because this is no fun. But I've finally figured out what the issue is. Wanted to share it with you because maybe you're having this issue. And now I'm so happy with this guitar. It's what I think a Telecaster should be. It's fun to play, sounds great, it's stable. So let me show you what I found out, and then you can do this simple mod yourself. Alright, so I was looking at it again the other night, and what I noticed was that the strings weren't centered on the neck. The low E was way up high like that, and the high E was higher up than it should, and that was causing some real issues. It wasn't even fun to play. Dead strings, bad intonation, it's just weird. Anyway, so what I found out was that in order for these strings to be centered where they are on the neck, all the way up, a similar margin all the way up the neck, in order for that to happen on this beast, maybe it's just mine, but check yours as well, these saddles have to be skewed away from the bridge. See how they're not perpendicular to the bridge? In fact, some of them are almost covering up the string hole, because they have to slant so far down away from the bridge in order for the strings to be straight and where the strings are supposed to be. If those saddles end up straight, or some of them straight and some of them crooked, then all sorts of crazy stuff happens. You have tuning issues, and if you're bending on the lower strings, that's going to want to straighten the saddle. If you're bending on any of them, it's going to put more tension on the saddle. It's going to move, perhaps, and it's just a mess. Anyway, so I knocked them all down with a punch, a little screwdriver, and a small little hammer, so that the strings are now straight on the neck. But this is what happened to the bridge pieces. So, as it is now, I love it again. It's super stable, sounds great, no problems with tuning. It is the Telecaster I've always dreamed of. But what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to drill a little hole right under here. Wish that would focus up. Maybe if I put my finger there. Now I've got my height screw right there, and I've got a piece of painter's tape right in there. Nice. So what I'm going to do when I restring this puppy is turn this screw in and out a couple of times while I keep pressure on this saddle so that it doesn't float around, and then that'll leave a mark in the tape. Then I'll take the strings off, I'll lift this saddle or remove this saddle, and I'll drill a little divot hole right where the mark is, and that way when I put my new strings back on, this saddle will be locked in, because if this one's not locked in, the rest of these want to move, and the whole thing wants to keep creeping back up to where they're straight according to the string tension, which just makes sense. The strings are going to want to pull these straight, but if they're straight, the strings don't line up on the neck, and it sounds like garbage. It's no good. All right? Excuse me. So that is a real easy fix, but it was hard to find the problem. And for $600 or more with a new guitar, I don't think you should have to have that issue. I'm so upset with Fender. I've never been a Fender fan, but now it's even more so. I don't understand what's going on with Fender. Their quality control is deplorable. It's terrible. I don't know what they're doing. They're sitting on their laurels is what they're doing. How about the Bass Breaker? The Bass Breaker series of amps that I owned one of with the 3 stages of gain. How about making those foot switchable? Or even 2 of them foot switchable. I don't know. And that wasn't so bad. You can treat it as a 1-channel amp and manually switch it. But the first run of those things, they had used uninsulated jacks in the effects loop. so that in the heads and the combos, anybody running anything through the effects loop, whether it's a looper or some sort of modulation pedal, it created so much noise that it was unusable. How did that get out of the Fender factory? Where's the quality control? I don't know. How did that even happen? Fender issued a lot of fix-it tickets for it, but still, they really shot themselves in the foot just because of lack of quality control. The Hot Rod Deluxe was a nice amp. I had one. I brought one home, tried to like it, and I couldn't because the moment you touched that volume knob and the gain knob, it was too loud to enjoy at anything but knock pictures off the wall loud. So how about put some thought into that? Make the audio taper different. Put a different kind of pot in there or a half power setting or something so that it was a more usable amp. The Blues Junior, okay, one of the best-selling amps in the world, but they're on their 4th generation, and what's changed? Not a whole lot. The gain structure a little bit, the reverb unit. I hear now they're using particle board instead of birch ply or even some sort of ply. That seems to be a step backwards, and we're paying $600 for this little Blues Junior. It's single-channel amp, 10-inch speaker, and still no effects loop. And even on the Champion, Super Champ, not the Champion, but the Super Champ. How long has that been out? And it has a line out. The mod to put a input right in there in the circuit is super easy, available online. Almost anybody with a bit of soldering knowledge can make that happen. Why hasn't Fender made that happen? Right? Just their quality control seems to be out the window. And I think it was Fender and maybe Gibson as well last year complaining that nobody was buying their guitars, or that, no, they said guitar is dead, which wasn't the case. It's just that nobody's buying your guitars anymore because there's a lot of other people putting guitars out that are perhaps making better equipment, making better guitars for even less money, and maybe you're just realizing your own inability to keep up with the times. I don't know. I point you to exhibit number 1. That little guy, remember him? Stage right, Monoprice. That blows the Blues Junior out of the water. I'll put that up against anybody. Bring your amp over. In fact, I'm tempted to go down to Guitar Center and get a Blues Junior and do a comparison, a side-by-side comparison. But I have a hard time getting stuff knowing that I'm not going to keep it. I think that puts people out, and they lose money on that product. They have to now sell it as a demo or an open box. So that's not very cool. But that little Monoprice is $170, or at least $200 or less. And it's got an effects loop, a 12-inch speaker instead of a 10. It's got a great array of tubes. It's got an effects loop. It's got a mid-frequency function. It's super nice. Anyway, that's my Fender rant. Seemed like there was one more. Oh yeah, there was one more. This goes back to the review of the Nashville Deluxe that I did. And in my Nashville Deluxe, it turned out that the center pickup had been put in backwards, or upside down. Well, backwards, wired backwards. So it sounded like crap. And that was one issue, and you can hear it in the video. That middle position, anytime you're in the middle position, it just sounded bad. How many of those went out the door before someone caught it? I don't know. Also, the bridge on that thing, all right, the bridge plate, this bridge plate right here on the Deluxe was secured with some screws, much like this one is. However, on that model, the Deluxe had a big old fat screw holding this bridge plate down right where the height adjustment screw was. First of all, this saddle wouldn't pull back far enough to properly intonate the instrument. And even if you could have gotten it back that far, your height adjustment screw was right on top of a screw holding the bridge plate to the body. That's just bad design. The thing's in the wrong place. How does that happen? I don't know. But it does. Who wants to have a height adjustment screw right in the middle of the bridge plate screw? That's poor planning. If anybody had noticed that or bothered to look at it, they would have found another place for that bridge plate screw. Also, the whole bridge would have been mounted further back on the guitar by about that much, and then you could properly have intonated that low E string. Anyway, I guess I feel better. I don't know. So, anybody, a modern player out there, if you're having issues, or at least check this out, because this right here, night and day difference. You want to have these strings aligned on the neck, parallel all the way down, but you may have to adjust your saddles all over to the right like this. And to keep them locked there, you're going to want to put a little pivot hole under this screw just so that it can key in when you have it down. And that should stabilize all the rest of the saddles and turn that instrument into something you can enjoy for a long time. Now it's stable as heck. I love it. It's everything I want it to be, and I will keep it forever instead of putting it up on the sale block. All right. That's it. Thanks for watching. Happy teching. Old guy out.